If you thought I was joking, I hope those 3 copyright lawsuits put that thought to rest. Because every one of you motherfuckers that I said I'm coming for, that I hold responsible, guess what? It's only a matter of time.
Hi, Inner Circle. If you're a lot like me, then you enjoy watching social media content creators. I like a lot of them. I am one sometimes. I'm inspired a lot by what they do. But, oh my god, if influencer isn't the most ironically perfect double-edged sword term for what it is that they do. A lot of these creators do this for money. That's not a surprise, and it's reasonable. I think the reason most of us do our jobs is for money. But there is a difference between doing it for money and doing it for the money. And there are some times where that distinction is more important to make than others. Today, specifically, I want us to look at the content of public figures disagreeing with each other and how a certain topical example right now has helped change it from what was once the disagreement of opinions and the exchange of ideas into a ego-driven smear campaign making immense profit that is threatening people's actual careers. And secondly, my personal goal for this video is to avoid saying anything that could be clipped out of context and used against me in court. And sadly, yes, the two topics are very related. But first, let's go over a rundown of the story so far and see why I would think it is a bad precedent to set. So the most prominent ongoing discourse to come from the creator space recently is between Hassan Piker, the political streamer and homeowner, and H3, the podcast host and former commentary channel. These two previously co-hosted a political podcast together called Leftovers that was abruptly discontinued when they disagreed on the topic of the Gaza genocide by Israel, with Hassan standing vehemently in favor of Gaza and H3 supporting the IDF. But them splitting is only where this starts, because since then, whenever Hassan spent time on his stream covering a topic from Gaza, H3 would dedicate his own content to aggressively reacting to whatever he'd say, claiming it doubled as a slight at himself. Other political content creators around Hassan's orbit would comment on this cycle, leading to H3 focusing in on them as well and labeling them as his opponents, dedicating his content to covering their movements as well. Every time an Israeli attack gave these political creators something new to cover, H3 would use those videos within his own content by reinterpreting their commentary as direct attacks on his personal character towards his previous involvement. Meaning, to this day, Israel relentlessly bombs citizens in Palestine, Yemen, Syria, and everywhere else their Holocaust spreads, which means whenever these creators speak out on it, H3 spins it as a continuation of his discourse. What could have been an isolated incident of two large figures clashing in opinion has become a 2-year timeline of discourse between prominent creators that updates parallel to a modern-day Holocaust. Yes, that's a lot. It could be a topic worth analyzing on its own, and believe me, it has. And it's because of that I want to do something different. Even though the specifics of this discourse are very important, what I'm additionally worried about that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about is how this being the most prominent discourse right now could be inspiring a lot of the people who view discourse content as a profit margin. To be clear, my investment in this discussion has nothing to do with the actual arguments being made. In regards to the actual discourse of the situation itself, I'm not here to attempt to add any nuance or exploration on that because, in my opinion, Hassan is right and H3 is in the wrong. Because their disagreement is on Palestine, I'm not here to put any devil's advocate into understanding their approach because what's happening to Palestine and Gaza is a red line issue for me. I have no interest in attempting to push any sympathy onto anyone who's willing to defend Zionism. I'm not approaching this story with a pro-Hassan stance. I couldn't if I wanted to. I don't know anything about him. And I'm not approaching this willing to defend H3 because, again, I don't know enough about him to do so. What I do know is their positions on this argument, and I know that Israel is the biggest modern threat to human rights in our generation, which tells me enough about who's in the right here. I can't double down on this enough. There is no defense in Israel that is not rooted in bloodlust and cowardice, so I have no interest in playing both sides or trying to find a compromise here. To redefine what is happening as personal drama, I don't even want to come close to doing that here. and because that is what H3 is doing, I know who I'm against. So yes, when addressing the specific story, I am going to be biased, because it only takes a shred of empathy to understand that H3 is just one of many apathetic colonists who refuse to think outside their own experiences for even a second, wasting our breathable air, living as human beings in favor of this generation's Holocaust. I wanted to make sure that I said that, and you know it, before we continue. But let's take the specific details here and put them to the side just for a second, because if we're going to understand content around creators disagreeing, we have to understand why creators disagreeing can even be content. Content creators on YouTube have been disagreeing and arguing with each other since the very beginning. I know, arguments on the internet. Try not to be too surprised. It was pretty shocking for myself as well. Online platforms like YouTube and the internet in general, are centered around expressing the user's opinions, even when they're not explicitly stated. Whether the genre of post is social commentary, comedy skits, how-to tutorials, gameplay, politics, music, movie reviews, literally anything, there's an opinion being expressed by the person uploading the work. And opinions, fundamentally, are going to differ from person to person, so disagreement is inevitable. But it is the degree to which... Why am I explaining fighting online? We all know it. We see it every day. But what's important to contextualize is that time changes things. With every passing year, the internet becomes more ingrained with our society, and what is considered standard behavior online evolves alongside with it, for better or for worse. Mostly worse. Whenever anything drama-related tends to start between creators, people tune... Whenever anything even remotely drama-related happens between creators, people tend to stop and tune in. Even if they're not familiar with the creators involved, drama is inherently fun to watch. Meaning that because of the inherent entertainment of disagreeing, what might start as a simple argument between two creators might evolve into something drawing in astronomical attention and views, making the creators' fight all the more public. Previous examples of creators beefing used to be just back and forth uploads responding to each other's arguments. Like, I think this, well, I think this. I would say this to this, or I respond to that with this. Response videos. It was just turn-based uploads for the audience to follow along with to see updates to the argument, and you know that every video there was short and packed with ads, because we're talking about influencers here. Even when they're fighting, there's going to be some element of deriving money from it. So the fighting isn't new. We get that any opinion you might have is going to be met with fighting. But the degree at which the arguing is happening, that has changed. The type of discourse we're seeing, especially here now with Hassan and H3, has been influenced by our shifting culture. And there's still just too many large forces that have made our culture violently divisive, ready to explode at a moment's notice. Before we continue, there is an elephant in this room I'd like to address, which people familiar with this topic have picked up on already, but H3 is not this creator's real name, and he doesn't really look like this. I've been blurring his face, and I plan on doing so for this entire video. The short story is that I don't want to say the creator who's involved, and I know I do that at the cost of a lot of you finding that annoying, but I'm hoping that as the video progresses, you'll start to see why I did this. But for now, I'll state two reasons. The first is that I don't want his name to be used as a keyword in the search for this video and have this profit off of the popularity of the drama. I'm not here to give this person any content to react to, nor am I here to give anyone from his audience anything to bolster his arguments. I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to contribute to their conversation. I'm here for us to analyze what's going on with a broader topic in mind, and I don't want to have my work devalued in that way. The second reason is that, as this video's title implies, there are legal elements going around, and a lot of videos talking about this have been included in threats of defamation lawsuits from channels that are a lot smaller than mine. So, at the risk of sounding selfish, I don't want my video to be included in any court arguments. Like, I can't afford a lawyer right now, are you kidding me? In this economy? This list of reasons could expand, believe me, but for now, it's enough. So I will be referring to this person as H3 and blurring their face, just in the loose hope that it protects me somehow, legally. But on that note of legal action, let's talk about how H3 has been weaponizing these threats on multiple platforms in order to silence his critics, and how the justice system might be used by creators more often now. Heavy lifting on justice, by the way. The first step of the YouTube and legality world is copyright infringement and fair use. It's base level stuff and has been standard since basically day one, but that makes it ground zero for the nightmare it's becoming today. One of the tactics H3 has been using on YouTube creators who are reporting on this ongoing breakdown is to issue a copyright claim over any clips of his stream the channel might show, reporting it as re-uploaded content. This is partially grounded in a reasonable contention, because posting somebody else's video violates the official YouTube policy on copyright. If somebody makes a video that I like, I can't just download it and post it unedited on my own channel, because that is just stealing. And if my channel is monetized, I might be making money off of somebody else's work. Very understandable stuff. But where this gets dicey is determining just how much of another video you can utilize, which is what H3 is capitalizing on to justify his claim wave campaign. Reposting an unedited video is obviously a violation, but this has led to people disagreeing on how much of a video you can reference and still get away with. Especially with the commentary genre, like what I do here. I might have to show pieces of a video in order to give context or show you what I'm talking about, and technically that is reposting somebody else's work, if you wanted to get very pedantic and technical. YouTube addresses this with its rule on transformative content, meaning as long as a segment of a video is being used as an example within another creator's original work, it counts as being edited. So it's not theft, it's more technically sourcing. However, the public perception of this policy is muddled by the copyright enforcement of movie studios and music labels. Because if you show even a clip of a movie in your video, or a tiny segment of a song, that studio or corporation has the grounds to come at you. This miscommunication between what is and isn't claimable led to rumors about a passable amount of a song or a movie being allowed. People claimed you could use 15 seconds of a copyrighted song before the YouTube censors could detect it, but despite that claim catching on, there's no evidence to back up any amount of reuse being safe. But the human spirit is nothing if not stubborn. Most creators will work around this by reviewing movies using only clips from a trailer, or they'll adjust the on-screen visuals or add an audio effect to a song to try and outsmart the detection software. A recent example in the short-form content that you may have seen is the addition of a horizontal line or text-based captions in order to alter the video. It's cluttered, but I'll admit it's a little less invasive than what YouTube has to do. The point being, companies not allowing transformative content at all gave some creators the idea that any amount of their work being shown was available to be claimed. Even if they knew better, they have this option to claim first and feign deniability later. A big part of this is knowing how it really works, but doing it anyway in order to justify your actions to your audience. So, we can go ahead and add that to my list of reasons for being vague. It's also worth noting that when you are claiming a video as a creator or studio, you have the option to take the video off completely or to leave it up and simply redirect all of the money it generates to you. This adds another layer onto H3's mass claiming. He's not having the videos be taken down, as all of them are still up. You can go watch them right now. Instead, he's telling his audience it's copyright infringement and defamation, but off-screen is only trying to steal the money it's generating. You can, as a creator, claim a video, and YouTube will assume you're in the right, and it's not until they manually check it that they might reverse the decision, and by then, you might have already made a lot of money off of it. So on the technical side, these clips of H3s within commentary videos clearly fall under transformative content, but for the audiences unaware of this policy, what H3 is doing is a viable course of action to take and defend. And that isn't the primary problem here, right? I can't blame people for believing H3 if they don't know any better. The issue is that on the creator side of things, what he's doing looks very easy. And if a creator wanted to recreate this action and similarly gaslight their audience, this is telling them that it's still very easy to do. And that isn't even the only legal loophole at play here, because H3 has been relishing publicly the idea of actually officially going after these creators with lawsuits and defamation claims. And right now, it doesn't seem to be going unchecked. One of the elements that really led to this story being blasted into the public perception was the inclusion of defamation lawsuits. But the people already following this and familiar with the people involved understood that this had the ulterior motive of placing a hit. This being H3 threatening to sue and dox the mods of his Snark Reddit. And I'm aware that to the regulated people who are offline, that sentence has a lot of weird fantasy words, so don't worry, we'll define all of the stranger words here. Doxxing. This is the act of spreading someone's personal address or information online against their wishes. It's really only ever used maliciously with the intention of inviting hurt or harassment onto someone from others. This behavior is a descendant of swatting, which often now includes stream swatting, where people playing video games on public matches would get frustrated and call the SWAT team on their opponents using their IP address. So real soldiers with real weapons treating it like a real threat. The implication of hurt there is very definitive, and doxing has the same implications of intended violence. In previous creator beefs on YouTube, doxing is something that didn't come up often, so when it did, it was considered an extreme violation. 4 years ago, the creator Frank Hassel was fighting with Boogie2988. He filmed himself showing up to his house, which Boogie countered by coming out with a gun and firing it in the air. This reaction split people, understandably, but they agreed the severity of visiting his home warranted some kind of severe reaction. Anonymous creators and VTubers are constantly dealing with doxing attempts from their fans, but even other creators in the same space have been caught with group chats dedicated to exposing the creators they don't like. And it's understood that, in exposing them, they are attempting to go after their careers. 2 years ago, the reaction creator Sniper Wolf doxed the creator Jax Film's home on her Instagram story because she was featured on his side project calling out lazy reactors. This blew up and drew in a lot of contention online, with most people agreeing that Sniper Wolf was way out of line in doing so. So even in these instances in the past, there seems to be this common understanding of this unwritten social rule that no matter what you're arguing about, doxing other creators was a sign that you lose the argument. Creators doxing each other was always seen as unacceptable. Audiences doxing creators has always been seen as them being manic and reprehensible. In all these cases and all others, unless direct harm is at risk, doxing is unacceptable. Mods, short for moderators, specifically on Reddit. These are the users, usually anonymous, who enforce the discussions by the individual subreddit rules. Subsequently, Snark page. On Reddit, where you can make community forums about anything, it's common to see larger public figures have a Snark subreddit page made about them, or to be brought up in Snark pages dedicated to non-specific figures in general. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's for being snarky. It's a page where people go to vent their frustrations on a creator, no matter how petty they are, without being worried about community reprimanding. So if a creator has a Snark page, they don't actually have it under their control. It's something assigned to them after reaching a certain level of fame. It's often moderated by fans, or ex-fans, who make sure the posts aren't violent or dangerous, just snark. It's a designated space to have personal, even petty, complaints. When I first heard about this, I just assumed it was another form of internet bullying, but now I would assign Snark subreddits under mean-spirited feedback more so than bullying. You don't go to an influencer's Snark page to read think pieces and consider nuance. It's a designated forum for venting frustrations without it reading like a direct attack. While I'm not in love with the idea in general, and I would personally hate having a Snark subreddit dedicated to myself, I do see the bright side in having one. At worst, it's a central, concentrated area for you to specifically avoid, instead of rolling the dice scrolling through your own YouTube comments. But even if it's mean, it can be a good place to see what your viewers are responding to. It's feedback, even if it's malicious. A chunk of people are going to hate whatever you make anyway, and it's the contract all creators sign. So Fighting against it is like swimming upstream. My point to this with the larger context is if H3 is mad about him having a Snark page, that's understandable. That reaction is just a reaction, and it makes sense. But treating it like a severe threat that warrants you going after it with the legal process is an overreaction, and it is letting it get to you personally when, while letting go of it may be tough, the right thing to do is to ignore it and move on. In this instance, H3's Snark page was rising in popularity following his year-long Hassan meltdown, and in response, he labeled it as a personal defamation and claimed he was preparing a lawsuit to sue the moderators specifically. The thing is, there's no legal grounds for that. Defamation is a little more complicated than community-led discussions on someone's behavior, especially if you want to assign the direct violation towards the people reading. And like, the moderators aren't posting the stuff themselves, they're usually just making sure, like, despite the heat H3 is throwing at the moderators, I think that he knows this.
My lawyer can't do fucking shit, and it's driving me crazy.
I don't know what to tell you.
They go, oh, 230, you can't do anything. Really? I can't believe that. That a website just allows this level of harassment, and it's just like, oh, 230, you can't fucking... That's just,
230.
Section 230, they can't be held responsible for what their users post.
But in following through with a lawsuit, these moderators of this Snark page would have to appear in court, effectively revealing who they are for H3 to see. I think the play here is to dox the moderators with the intention of intimidating them to leave. This would either lead to the forum getting shut down, or it would intimidate the rest of the people participating to abstain from it, because H3 now has this precedent set that he'll come after you. And H3 has demonstrated that they have no issue with doing this to people. So I don't think it's crazy to imagine that if they were in court and they found out who these people were, they wouldn't keep that to themselves. You know what I mean? They'd probably share it. The Snark page is bothering him, so he's going after the people in charge of it and intimidating the rest of the people to leave it alone. I can't prove that that's what he's doing here. I can't say that's definitely what's going on. But it's not unbelievable. We can go ahead and add doxing to my list of censorship reasoning. Because, like, I don't want to be doxed. And you don't want to dox me. I'm inside in my attic editing all day. I'm never out. You won't find me. And even if you found my apartment, I live in a busy street. It's like a crowded area. You'd have to park far away and walk to my place, probably uphill. It's a hassle, and nobody wants that. Besides, I might boogie you. So H3 has no problem going after the individual viewers of people who disagree with him, even if they might be his former audience. But he's not the one going after them, right? What he's doing is opening the floodgates for his audience to go after them. And as it turns out, audience brigading is another bad precedent to set. I am sorry for butchering my lines. If there's anything H3 wants to take me to court on, the grounds of being a bad YouTuber, viable. The reason H3 is using all of his social medias and upload content to cover this story is for the purpose of keeping his audience up to date and on his side. If nobody agreed with him, this amount of focus dedicated unto other people's opinions is sad and pathetic. And it still is, but his fans see it as warranted, as they believe his claims of him being under constant attack. Keeping this story relevant over this amount of time is reliant on his fans feeling like they've been drafted into this war for his credibility. But is this really about approval? His fans already like him. He's trashed the hope of the involved creators respecting him. Is that really what all of this has been for? I can at least attest that personally seeing H3 dedicate so much of his time towards extending the coverage of this story makes me question if this is really about preserving his dignity or boosting his arguments. I mean, if so, a lot of this time could be better spent, right? And to be honest, I don't think this should be our primary focus, as we want to know what damage this will do to the creator space, more so than why he's doing what he's doing. But they could always have something to do with each other. So, okay, This definitely is driven by the personal vendetta, and the end goal here seems to be dominating his opponents. Checks out, sure looks that way. But if we're looking about this behavior and think about what might inspire other creators to repeat it, that isn't enough. Reputations are certainly prioritized online, but plenty of creators have no problem debasing themselves and their reputations for money. Oh, that's it. I got it. The lasting effect this will have on the creator space is going to have to do with money. It's not impressive, but where I'm landing is that if other creators are going to ever copy pages from the playbook of events we're seeing here, it's going to be done so in the hopes of recreating the profits being generated. Now, I don't believe H3 is pretending to care about this just to grift. With the size of his platform, he does not need money that badly. He is fighting to the death about his opinions, and all for his ego. He's a narcissist. It's petty and emotionally driven, but the money aspect isn't small enough to overlook. For example, the lawsuits. H3 is definitely doing this for his ego, but he also seems determined to take money from these creators. One of these lawsuits that H3 seemed particularly focused on was accusing the streamer Denims over an alleged anonymous CPS call on his family. And when he was playing over his footage on stream, he intentionally moves his own camera to cover up Denims' chat while an edited version stayed uncovered.
I believe this is a live feed of the chat. This isn't edited.
What about the top right? I thought these were...
No, it's this, I think when you full screen it... No, this is an edit. It's a cutout of the full chat. It's just enlarged.
Oh, really?
Over the screen, yeah.
Did you catch that last clip? Yep, his own employee just tried to show him that he's wrong, and he ignored it because he's lying. At this point, I don't know if he's watched a single real video of me.
Which is enough proof that he's lying, to anyone reasonable, but the fact that he is still pressing on with these lawsuits, despite overwhelming evidence and him being extraordinarily shady. Additionally, Noah Samson, one of the YouTube commentary creators who H3 claims to be suing for defamations, recently hosted a week-long fundraising event stream to send aid to Gaza, raising nearly $550,000 from his community. Which, side note, this is an incredible accomplishment to achieve, and it makes me so happy to see the community pool what they can for what is painfully obvious to me as the right cause to support. I am especially proud of everyone who is able to send aid, and even though I might be biased, I believe Noah making this happen makes him one of the top commentary creators on the platform. H3 would disagree with that, though.
I don't know how many of you know who this guy Noah Samson is. He started his second video by saying, "Aliens threatened to sue me." It's not a threat. I'm going to sue you.
Oh.
Wait.
I'm literally going to sue you for defamation.
Uh-oh.
Apparently, Noah raising money to help the victims of Gaza is secretly all about insulting him. So, it leads H3 to say this.
Noah just did this massive fundraiser, and let's say hypothetically I'm planning to sue a bunch of these people. They just keep raising money because Noah's like, let's prove to you that we can raise the money to fight this lawsuit, which is fine. Like I said, I prefer them raise the money so that I know that at least there's something left when I win, right? Man, that's just logic. That money's coming to me eventually, so it's good. If he was bankrupt, I wouldn't collect it all. So in a way, it's good for me that he's crowdfunding.
You can't see it because I've smudged out his face, but this man is salivating at the thought of taking all of the money Noah and his community raised for Gaza. He plays it off as a joke, but there's nothing suggesting that this isn't his actual plan. Even his little podcast minion over there points out how disturbingly greedy he sounds, to which H3 just sloppily course corrects and drops the topic.
So in a way, it's good for me that he's crowdfunding. But I do think it's
But he's not crowdfunding for his lawsuit.
No, what he said, I'm going to crowdfund, but I'm doing it to prove that we can. I said, instead of crowdfunding for the lawsuit, I'm going to crowdfund for Gaza.
But that's like an actual good cause.
Yes, it is.
So what's
funny, though, is that he's asking his audience to chip in to prove, right, that he can crowdfund.
It doesn't prove anything.
But
the sort at all.
There's got to be a limit. Like, he can't go. You think he's going to go?
Well, also, more people are obviously more willing to give to a cause than going to a good cause versus some dude's lawsuit.
Yeah, totally. That too. But like at the end, it's awesome. I think it's fucking great.
Again, there's no doubt I have that H3 is in this primarily for his own ego, but he keeps circling back on the financial aspects of it. Whether that's around his gain or their loss, I'm unsure. Remember back earlier in this video when I was talking about old creator conflicts doing back and forth reaction videos, and I noted that they were all loaded with ads to mutually profit from the drama? Every podcast episode has ads turned on, and most have sponsors. The constant Instagram stories convince his audience to show him support by watching the streams, which increases the income per view. And for the drama creators watching and taking notes, they're not engaging with whether or not H3 ego survives. They want to know if he's making money. So whether or not this is his ulterior motive, H3 is making bank from all of this, and that makes the harassment and vitriol he's caused everyone else all the worse, because he's earning money off of their expense. And what he's doing to brew audience engagement and nursing their resentment towards these creators is vital to the process. And keeping them engaged with every minuscule update is what keeps the money printing machines charged. Posting over a year of constant uploads regarding this. Video after video, Instagram story after Instagram story, day in and day out, day in, day in. Oh, I must have fallen asleep while filming. That is embarrassing. Nope. No, it's been 2 weeks since I filmed. There's probably been some updates in the case since then. Yeah, he announced he's suing 3 creators who reacted to his 2-hour hate video on Hassan, got mad they were fundraising money for legal fees, admitted he only did it to harass them, threatened to add another lawsuit unless they apologized, which is illegal and extortion, and is planning on using his own money to wait out the case, slowly bankrupt them, essentially paying money to showcase them as targets for his audience to gleefully threaten them with torture and abusement. It's Ethan Klein, the dude we've been talking about, the guy who runs the H3 channel, the H3 podcast. It's Ethan Klein. He's known for wearing a lot of beanies in 2016, having an N-word compilation dedicated to him, and Zionism. Within his career online, Ethan once was in a similar position where he was being sued for defamation by someone, and he seems to have taken all the wrong lessons from that and decided to apply it here for his own benefit.
It's like those with money in the legal system
have the ability to destroy and bully and just defeat people on the grounds of I have more money, and you never would have a chance of defending yourself. It's obscene, guys.
Ethan, if you are somehow watching this, I humbly volunteer to be sued by you. It would be a privilege to be the first white man in your official list of lawyer go-get-ems. I may be irrelevant based on you and everyone else you're suing, but life is short. What do you have to lose? Add me to the list. I would love to go toe-to-toe with you, and honestly, if you want to skip the court thing, we could just fight if you wanted. The point this video was originally building towards is that creators nowadays are relying too much on harassing in order to solve their problems for them. That's what this was about. The doxing, the audience brigading, all of this was going to lead towards the larger picture of harassment and weaponizing an audience to torture your opponents into submission. And that's bad. I don't like it, and I wish the point of the video was that. Just quit it, everyone. But unfortunately, the discourse happening right now is about to set the stage on whether or not this harassment transcends audiences and starts becoming more infused in real-world consequences.
If you thought I was joking, I hope those 3 copyright lawsuits put that thought to rest, because every one of you motherfuckers that I said I'm coming for, that I hold responsible, guess what? It's only a matter of time.
If content creators, or really anybody who posts anything, gets the idea that they can have their opinion met with an opposing one, and they can fight it with lawsuits and lawyers and audience brigading, there is going to be no cap to where this can stretch. And larger point aside, that doesn't change the fact that Ethan is clearly running these lawsuits against the creators in order to just drain them of their money and slowly bankrupt them with law fees. And hopefully even his diehard supporters will see how petty and cruel this is. Of course they don't. I hope this is fake, but it looks like some of them are being inspired by this to the point of wanting to do the same themselves. They feel attacked for supporting someone and being judged by others when that someone turns out to be a screwball. These creators should not have to be bombarded by legal fees for having an opposing opinion to Ethan. That's why they reacted to his video, because in this economy of creators, everyone's reacting to videos. His claim that they didn't react enough is insane, especially coming from him. For anything to change, we need platforms like YouTube and Twitch themselves to do or say something. And platform giants don't like getting involved when their reputations could be damaged. So, unless one of you has like a phone number for a higher up at either of these companies, they're probably going to stay silent. What we can do as individuals is make sure that the audience reaction to this is pretty universally heard. Support these creators and any future ones caught up in these lawsuits if you can. Call out the disingenuous behavior on display when it comes up, online or offline. If you are a creator yourself, please, respectfully, put some goddamn elbow grease into condemning Ethan's actions here, because we are all about to be affected by this if it continues this way. Free speech online, as we know it, is about to be rewritten in order to cater to people who want to run crying to their lawyers. But joking aside and beyond all else, what frustrates me to no end is the fact that this is all stemming from unimportant creator drama. It is an important result coming from an unimportant spat that started in the first place because of a real-world genocide. The fact that we are all having to even spend our time thinking about Ethan Klein when Israel is bending history to its whim right now is completely unacceptable. It's unreal, and I cannot believe the creator space has become connected with this, of all things. The important part of this story is the potential risk of losing ground on free speech online. The unimportant part is Ethan Klein. It doesn't matter what specific creator is doing this. And even that pales in comparison to the loss of life. That is the most important thing. Please continue to support the creators and public figures who are vocal about this. Don't let intimidation tactics from media platforms, Zionist YouTubers, or even the US government stop you from advocating for what your core itself knows to be true. It's simply not worth the silence. Even if I am sued for every dollar, banned from every social media, or even detained by a flimsy acting government, I'm doing it having stood my ground for what I believe in. I'm hoping you'd all be willing to do that too. Free Palestine, protect free speech online. Fuck you, Ethan. See you in court. Or not. Well, everyone, that's my time. Thank you for watching. Sorry this took so long to make. I will hurry up and immediately get started on the next one, so it does not happen again. Please take care of yourselves and others, and I will see you soon, hopefully. Alright, love you lots. Bye.